Hello everyone, Arya here. I want to start this video off by saying that obviously we've covered a lot of internet or tech-based crimes in this, series of sorts. However, we've never covered one quite as, recent as the one we're covering today. However, I felt it was important that we do so to help bring attention to it, considering the circumstances surrounding this case. And I'm actually currently filming this, look at my calendar here, on March 3rd, 2022. So by the time you're watching this, there may probably be even more information that's come out. And I'd just like to ask that you keep in mind that obviously I wasn't able to put that information into this video. However, hopefully this will help bring a little bit more attention and information out there to the public as far as this case and the many upsetting circumstances surrounding it. Thank you. On the evening of December 13th, 2021, Chantel Fields and her son went to her daughter's apartment because she hadn't been answering her mother's texts all day. Chantel had asked, "Are you okay? Please let me know." When they arrived, there was a note on Lauren's door that read, "If you're looking for Lauren, call this number." After dialing, Lauren's landlord descended the stairs and informed Chantel that her daughter, Lauren Smith Fields, was dead and proceeded to give them the phone number of the lead detective. I'm sorry to interject already, and I'm actually going to try not to interject too much in this case, in the story of this case. However, I just find that I find that completely absurd that, the landlord knew and even had the police detectives, the lead detective's phone number to give to Chantel. However, the lead detective didn't, give Chantel the courtesy to call her, to go to her and inform her of this news. And Chantel had to find this out through the landlord after going to go check in on her daughter. According to Miss Fields, her son spoke with the detective and the call went poorly. The detective mentioned that Lauren had been on a date with an older man from Bumble that night and reportedly provided a meager amount of additional information. On a following phone call, the detective hung up abruptly. According to Miss Fields' son, Detective Kevin Cronin told them Lauren met a white guy on Bumble, but don't worry about that. He's a really nice guy. I know we don't actually know that much about this detective, but from what we know, it sounds like he's a fucking moron. I mean, what's the point of saying, don't worry, he's a really nice guy? I don't think they need to know that, at this time. The family then waited for Detective Cronin to arrive at the apartment after calling him several times. When he failed to show up, they decided to start packing her belongings. That was when they found bottles of alcohol, a bloodstained sheet, an overturned plate of food, a sedative pill, and a used condom. The Fields family lawyer, Darnell Crosland, reports that the family had to press the detective to gather evidence from her apartment, and when Mr. Crosland followed up with the forensic lab, he was told that nothing had been submitted. This is going to be the last time I interject about this cop, but I'm sorry that I keep also interjecting, but I'm actually genuinely aggravated by everything we already know about this cop and, his complete incompetence. The really nice guy was at the scene when authorities arrived. He was the last person to see Lauren alive. One of the first officers on the scene, Carla Ramil, wrote in the report that the Bumble date was trembling and visibly shaken. Officer Ramil found Lauren on her back on the bedroom floor. She was not breathing, and there was dried blood in and around her right nostril. The report says she was pronounced dead upon arrival and had been for at least an hour. According to a New York Times article published on January 27, 2022, the police were neither confirming nor denying if the really nice guy was taken in for questioning or if he was considered a person of interest. The nice man's lawyer only communicated to the New York Times that he complied with the police that day and gave no further details. The really nice guy was a 37-year-old Caucasian man who initially connected with Smith Fields on Bumble. They spoke for 3 days, after which Lauren invited him over to her apartment. They met the evening of December 11th. That night, they drank tequila, ate food, played games, and then began to watch a movie. According to the Bumble date, she stepped outside during the movie to meet her brother, and upon her return, she went straight to the bathroom where she stayed for 10 to 15 minutes. Lauren then returned to watch the movie and fell asleep on the couch. The man then carried her to the bedroom and said that he fell asleep next to her. He stated that when he woke up at 3 a.m. to use the restroom, she was snoring. When he woke again at 6:30 a.m., She was lying on her right side. Blood was coming out of her right nostril onto the bed, and she was not breathing. He then called emergency responders. Reportedly, weeks passed with the authorities giving few updates to the Fields family. On January 24, 2021, Lauren's birthday, activists and community members joined Lauren's family members and marched to the Bridgeport mayor's office to demand that something be done. Mayor Joseph P. Ganim finally made a statement, merely confirming the police department's comment that the case was being investigated by the Office of Internal Affairs. The Smith-Fields family has clearly stated they plan on suing the mayor, the police chief, and multiple detectives because the police department did not sufficiently gather evidence from Lauren's apartment and failed to consider her Bumble date a person of interest. The family cites this as insensitive behavior that violated their civil rights. Because of increased attention to Lauren's case on social media, the Connecticut Office of the Chief Medical Examiner released her cause of death: a cocktail overdose of alcohol, prescription medication, and fentanyl. Her death was ruled an accident. These findings led to the Bridgeport Police Department opening a criminal investigation. Commenting on the release of the medical examiner's report, the Smith-Fields family lawyer, Darnell Crosland, says, "The ME findings doesn't cure any of the Bridgeport's lack of process. In fact, it makes it worse. Instead, we are left with more questions than answers as a result of a botched investigation or lack thereof." There has been outcry on social media, particularly TikTok and Instagram, calling for justice for Lauren Smith-Fields. Amateur true crime sleuths and TikTokers have gone as far as trying to piece together the investigation based on local reports, as well as sharing the family's fight to get answers. The topic of TikTok, online armchair sleuths is definitely a bit of a potentially controversial one in my eyes, but I think as far as this case is concerned, considering how useless the police seem to have been in it, I completely welcome any support from anyone that wants to help do this investigation properly. Obviously, this case has had a lot of attention brought onto it already, but in my eyes, why not bring even more to it? Because the more people know about this case, the greater the chance there is of us finding justice for Lauren. On TikTok, the hashtag Lauren Smith Fields had been used over 27 million times. Cardi B tweeted, "Connecticut, you have failed that young lady." Lauren was bright. Her brother, Tavar Gray Smith, told CBS she had a future and the world knows she should be here. And that's why the news is going viral like it is. Following the release of the medical examiner's reports, on January 25, 2022, the Bridgeport police announced that they would begin investigating Lauren Smith-Fields' death as a crime. The Bridgeport Police Department is being assisted by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration as it investigates her cause of death. Due to the substances found in her body, Darnell Crosland says, "This looks further like a manslaughter. It looks more like a murder, and if the police don't start acting fast, we're going to have a real big problem on our hands." Crosland states that the investigation should have begun immediately after Miss Smith-Fields was found dead. "We thought from the beginning that there was foul play here. When you launch an investigation, the investigation must start with and include the last living person that reported the death of the other person." On January 31st, shortly after announcing the opening of the criminal investigation, BuzzFeed News announced that Detective Kevin Cronin had been suspended after being accused of mishandling the investigations of Lauren Smith-Fields. Thank fucking Christ. In the Smith-Fields' claim to sue the city, Detective Kevin Cronin was accused of assisting the Bumble date in a cover-up. The case has been used as a prime example of missing white woman syndrome, a term coined by PBS anchor Gwen Ifill nearly 2 decades ago. The term describes the large amount of attention poured into cases involving white women who were harmed, juxtaposed to the indifference towards black women in harm's way, such as Lauren Smith-Fields. It raises the question of how the case would have been handled if Lauren was white and her date a black man. The symbol of the missing white woman in America has a deep history, dating back to the late 16th century, when the first settlers of Roanoke, Virginia, mysteriously disappeared. The first Englishwoman to be born in America was a girl named Virginia Dare. She became a metaphor for the dangers of America and its wilderness. In the 18th century, books called captivity narratives consisted of white women being captured by natives and forced to stay with a tribe. Sometimes they return, sometimes they don't. Continuing the piqued interest of white women's safety, the post-Reconstruction era film The Birth of a Nation warns that formerly enslaved black men were not just a threat to America, but specifically a physical and sexual threat to white women. Danielle Slakoff, a researcher of criminal justice and the media and assistant professor at California State University, stated, "White victims tend to be portrayed as being in very safe environments, so it's shocking that something like this could happen, whereas the black and Latino victims are portrayed as being in unsafe environments, basically normalizing victimization." Joe Ganim, Bridgeport's mayor, says that the police's interactions with the family will be investigated by the department's Office of Internal Affairs. Mayor Ganim also claimed to be working with the chief of police to improve policy regarding informing families of a loved one's death, adding, "There is no tolerance for anything less than respect and sensitivity for family members and their loss. I share concerns echoed by many about the amount of time and manner a family is informed of a loss. Death notifications should be done in a manner that illustrates dignity for the deceased and respect and compassion for the family." It's just such a politician statement, right? This is the mayor trying to cover his ass, after all the outcry on social media from the public. Had there not been as much of an outcry, this guy probably wouldn't have said a single thing. And this case, like many others before it, would have just been swept under the rug. We had the power to institute change. We really do. If there's ever a time where you doubt your ability, your voice to make a difference, I feel like this case really shows that it does make a difference. Crosland told CNN, "We will not stop until we get justice for Lauren and the thousands of black girls that go missing in this country every year. We owe them equal rights and justice regardless of race, and we wouldn't stop fighting until we get it." It's upsetting, it's disappointing, it's scary, it's saddening, but at the same time, hopefully, it also, as I said before, hopefully it just shows how strong our voices can be. And I hope that together we will find justice for Lauren Smith Fields and the many, 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 many other victims who have been lost to crimes like this. Thank you for your time, and as always, stay safe online.